Tonight on ABC News Live Prime, a federal investigation opened into the Minneapolis mayor and Minnesota governor amidst the ongoing ICE protests there. That's according to U.S. officials. New images coming in. Protesters confronting federal agents near a federal building used by ICE. An agent seen shoving a demonstrator to the ground. 2 children hospitalized after federal authorities deployed tear gas on a family. Plus, newly released documents reveal more about the chaotic moments after an agent opened fire, killing Renee Good. And President Trump's new statement on using the Insurrection Act. Tensions building over ownership of Greenland. President Trump now threatening to impose new tariffs on American allies, opposing his attempts to take over the island. The man accused of assassinating conservative activist Charlie Kirk back in court. His attorney trying to disqualify the prosecutors because one of their daughters was near Kirk the day he was killed. Brand new right now, a new study just released on Tylenol after the warning from President Trump and Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. linking autism to Tylenol taken during pregnancy. What the study shows about the safety of the popular pain reliever when it comes to unborn children.
Having tweezed for many years, a lot of those patients are seeing that their hair hasn't grown back in.
Brow envy, full, gorgeous brows are all the rage. Now the cosmetic procedure promising to reverse all those years of overplucking. And what's old is back again. It is the Decade Challenge sweeping social media. Are you ready to take a time jump back to 2016?
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Linsey Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Stephanie Ramos in for Linsey Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. We begin tonight with breaking news. A federal investigation has been opened into Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, according to multiple U.S. officials. The two are being accused of obstructing federal law enforcement activities in the state. Just last night, Frey had urged for calm, saying, "For those that are taking the bait, you are not helping." This as protests in Minneapolis have intensified over the week. Overnight, an agent was seen shoving a protester to the ground during a demonstration in St. Paul. And we're learning about 2 children who were hospitalized after federal agents deployed tear gas on a family. President Trump weighing in on the Insurrection Act, saying, quote, "If I need it, I'd use it." And Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison joins us to talk about the situation on the ground. But first, ABC's Matt Rivers is in Minneapolis tonight. He has the latest.
Tonight, new police, fire, and 911 dispatch logs detail the chaotic moments after ICE agent Jonathan Ross shot Renee Good. The first calls coming in at 9:38 a.m., one telling dispatchers there's 15 ICE agents and they shot her, because she wouldn't open her car door.
Can I go check a pulse?
No! Back up! Now!
I'm a physician!
I don't care. We understand. We got EMS coming.
Paramedics arrived at 9:42 a.m., reporting Good had 2 gunshots to the right chest, 1 gunshot to the left forearm, and an additional wound on the left side of her head, which the report called a, quote, possible gunshot wound. The dispatch logs indicate local law enforcement had to evacuate ICE agents from the scene because of the crowds.
So what we're seeing here is a couple dozen officers that have come out of the federal building there in riot gear, pushing the protesters that have been out front of the building all day long back onto the sidewalk. They have threatened people with arrest if they don't comply.
I can't breathe. Hey, back up!
Overnight, officers taking at least 4 people into custody.
We were on our way home from our oldest son's basketball game in South Minneapolis.
On Wednesday, Destiny Jackson had her husband and 6 kids in the car, including a 6-month-old, when she got caught in chaotic protests after ICE shot a Venezuelan man during a traffic stop.
And then one of them or 2 of them stopped at my car and was just like, "Get the F out of here." And I'm like, "We're trying." But in that instance, I'm like, "Don't you put your foot on that gas," because I'd be damned if they try to shoot us like Renee by saying that we hit them with our car. Immediately, once they got behind our car, they rolled tear gas under it.
They say grenades detonated their airbags, trapping them inside as gas filled their van. Then their 6-month-old baby stopped breathing.
Having to get my baby mouth to mouth and people pouring milk all over my other kids. I thought I was dying, honestly.
Thankfully, everyone now okay.
Where are we supposed to go?
Homeland Security says they've made more than 2,500 arrests since Operation Metro Surge began in December, many of the violent takedowns caught on camera.
Stop kneeing him in the face!
Multiple witnesses telling ABC News federal agents ate lunch in a Mexican restaurant outside Minneapolis Thursday, then followed staff after closing time. This video showing officers then arresting 3 of them. President Trump, who has threatened to send in active U.S. troops using the Insurrection Act, seeming to dial it back today.
If I needed it, I'd use it. I don't think there's any reason right now to use it. But if I needed it, I'd use it. It's very powerful.
And Matt Rivers joins us now. Matt, what more are you learning from the governor's response?
Yeah, so what he's saying is that the justice system here is being weaponized and that it is a dangerous authoritarian tactic. He's clearly willing to fight back about this, at least in the public arena. But where it goes from here, how far this investigation progresses, and how quickly, Stephanie, it's an open question.
And we can see those protesters there behind you there in Minneapolis. Matt Rivers for us tonight. Thank you, Matt. For more, we're joined by Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison. Sir, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate your time. U.S. officials are telling ABC News that a federal investigation has been opened into Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz for obstructing federal law enforcement activities in the state. What is your immediate reaction to this?
Well, my thoughts immediately went to my good friend, Letitia James, and to Mr. James Comey. To politically motivated prosecutions that collapse. This seems to be nothing more than politics from the Trump administration, but it bothers me deeply because I think that we have to enforce the law, but when powerful leaders use it and weaponize it against people who are just doing their jobs as their voters elected them to do, that's a very sad day in America. I'm sure that this will be revealed to be what it is. More political motivation and bullying from the White House.
And I want to go back to the ICE agent that shot and killed Renee Good. We heard it described in Matt Rivers' piece there. You stated that there is no immunity for the officer who shot and killed Renee Good, contradicting what Vice President J.D. Vance said after the shooting. Do you intend to file charges against that ICE officer?
Well, unlike the president, J.D. Vance, and others, I'm not going to make a determination whether charges are available or appropriate or not until there's an investigation. And let me be clear, this case is in the jurisdiction of Hennepin County, and the Hennepin County attorney is the lead prosecutor, not me. But having done many of these, I can say that first investigate, then decide whether you're going to prosecute. We're not going to put the cart before the horse. First, we need the investigation to go forward. And quite frankly, the federal authorities have denied the state access to the critical evidence so far, which is unfortunate. We're continuing to ask them to make a better decision. And of course, state officials, which have every right to investigate this matter, are continuing to collect evidence and catalog it as it comes in. And at some point, we'll need access to the rest of the file, and hopefully we'll get it.
Investigation first and then possible charges. Understood. You've also stated that these immigration raids are eroding the public's trust in government. What steps is the leadership in Minnesota taking to combat this mistrust that seems to be brewing there in the state?
Well, what we're doing is we're telling people, one, they have a right to voice their views via the First Amendment. It is a core constitutional principle, and that they're not, and people are not wrong. These tactics that we've seen from ICE are brutal. They are unfair. They are racial profiling. They are hurting our economy. They are diminishing people's ability to go to school and use other public services. And they're running up our costs in terms of policing and other public expenses. It is damaging to our state. We have made this clear to the president. If he thought this was supposed to help anything, it's not helping anything, and it needs to stop right away. And I think that people know that their leaders, their elected leaders, are standing up for them. And I think most people in Minnesota appreciate it.
And we know the governor there, Tim Walz, has the option to deploy the National Guard, which is used when there is a breakdown in public safety. It hasn't gotten to that point yet. But what is your message tonight to folks who are planning to protest this weekend across the state?
You have the right to protest, but protest smart and protest in a disciplined manner. And for the most part, I've seen people doing exactly that. I want to say thank you to the people who've gone out there and protested in a way that conveyed the values, the best values of our state, which is that we welcome the strangers. We believe that we should be a haven for the people of the world who need refuge. We believe in equal justice under the law and the rule of law. And we believe that in our state that people should be welcome and should live in peace. And we should not have the federal government literally persecuting the state of Minnesota. Those are our basic values. We should stand for those values, and we can and must do it in a disciplined way. We will prevail. We will come out of this, but it will be with being disciplined, and it will be with lifting up our voices against this very wrong, very unconstitutional behavior by this administration.
Attorney General Keith Ellison, we appreciate your time. We know this is a very busy time for you and your state right now. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Tonight, the president is doubling down on his effort to take over Greenland as U.S. allies, including Germany, the U.K., and France, send troops there to protect the island. Plus, 24 hours after their meeting, President Trump has kept Maria Corina Machado's Nobel Peace Prize, as he called the Venezuelan opposition leader a fine woman. But he is still not backing her as Venezuela's new leader. Our Mary Bruce reports from the White House.
Tonight, President Trump heaping praise on Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado, one day after she gave him the Nobel Peace Prize she won and he wanted.
I never met her before, and I was very, very impressed. She's this is a fine woman.
But Trump still won't back Machado to lead Venezuela. Today, his CIA director John Ratcliffe in Caracas meeting with Nicolas Maduro's former vice president Delcy Rodriguez. After Maduro was captured by the U.S., Rodriguez becoming acting president. Today, Machado not mincing words.
She's a communist. She's the main ally and representation of the Russian regime, the Chinese and the Iranians.
But Trump wants to work with Maduro's former vice president anyway. Today telling me another government shakeup in Venezuela would create chaos.
Why align with Delcy Rodriguez and the remnants of the Maduro regime and not with Machado, who has the support of the Venezuelan people?
Well, if you ever remember a place called Iraq where everybody was fired, every single person, the police, the generals, everybody was fired, and they ended up being ISIS. Instead of just getting down to business, they ended up being ISIS. So I remember that.
The opposition leader who gave Trump her Nobel Prize still convinced she will be elected president of Venezuela.
I believe I will be elected when the right time comes as president of Venezuela.
It comes as Trump redoubles efforts to take over another country, Greenland, a territory long controlled by our NATO ally, Denmark. Now, 6 other NATO countries, including Germany, France, and the UK, moving forces to Greenland in a show of support for Denmark. Trump today threatening to punish NATO allies that get in his way.
I may put a tariff on countries if they don't go along with Greenland.
Another threat from the president there. Mary Bruce joins us now from the White House. Mary, this move by President Trump is really testing NATO allies, isn't it?
It certainly is. And again, Stephanie, those NATO countries now sending forces to Greenland to try and protect against the U.S. and the president threatening those new tariffs if our allies interfere with his plans.
Mary Bruce for us there at the White House. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
For more on the ongoing situation with the U.S., Greenland, and Denmark, we're joined by former Ambassador Alan Leventhal, who served as U.S. Ambassador to Denmark from 2022 through 2025. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. Really appreciate your time. President Trump today repeated his message that the U.S. needs Greenland for national security, adding that he may put a tariff on countries that don't support the U.S. acquiring Greenland. Being that you've served as a U.S. ambassador to Denmark, what are your thoughts on these statements?
Well, it's hard to understand what is happening because the Denmark and Greenland Denmark's a founding member of NATO. It's one of the closest U.S. allies, and it would do anything for the U.S. I mean, Denmark views the U.S. as almost like an older. So the U.S. has very broad rights in Greenland. We have an Air Force base called Bidufik, less than 1,000 miles from the North Pole. And we have the right to build more air bases if we need it. So it's hard to understand because we have everything we need to provide for more security in the Arctic.
And today we saw a bipartisan delegation of House members and senators in Denmark to show their support for Denmark's control of Greenland. And we've recently reported on polls that show many Americans are against taking action in Greenland. What are your thoughts? Is there a chance this sways the president at all to drop the idea of taking action there?
Well, you know, it's very interesting. We went into Venezuela recently, and then with threatening military action in Greenland. Venezuela was a dictatorship, a corrupt, brutal dictatorship. It was running drugs around the world. It was aligned with our other countries who are enemies. It is completely different than what's happening in Greenland. Greenland, Denmark is our close ally, and they would do anything for the U.S. And you refer to the recent polls that have come out, several polls that I've seen, and Americans get it. They do not want to see, by overwhelming margins, they do not want to see military action in Greenland. And it is completely unnecessary. The Danes will do anything for us. The Greenlanders will. The only thing the Danes won't do is they won't tell the Greenlanders what their future is going to be. That's up to the people of Greenland.
Certainly an interesting turn of events. I want you to take a listen to this. Democratic Senator Jeanne Shaheen spoke today as part of that delegation. Here's what she had to say.
Just the suggestion that the U.S. would take Greenland by force does real damage, not just to the relationship with Greenland, with Denmark, but to America's own national security. It erodes decades of hard-won confidence among allies, and it weakens the sense of security that comes with it.
After hearing that, is there a fear that damage to these relationships may have already been done at this point if the U.S. doesn't end up taking Greenland by force?
Well, I think the important thing is to get this resolved. There was a very, I think, productive meeting, from what I understand, in the White House this week with the Vice President and the Secretary of State, with the Foreign Minister of both Denmark and of Greenland. Lars Løkke, the Foreign Minister for Denmark, characterized it as a frank but constructive discussion, and they agreed to meet again. So I think that's extremely positive. What I'm concerned about is what a comment made by the Finance Minister of France yesterday to Secretary Besant. And he said, if you look at EU-US trade, it is the most important, powerful trading relationship in the world. It represents $1.6 trillion of trade annually. It represents more than 5 million jobs in America. And what the finance minister said, military action in Greenland will threaten this important trade relationship and jobs in America.
Ambassador Alan Leventhal, thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you so much, and nice to be with you.
After days of President Trump threatening to strike Iran, he is now thanking the Iranian regime for apparently holding off the potential killing of hundreds of people. The president writing, "I greatly respect the fact that all scheduled hangings, which were to take place yesterday, have been canceled by the leadership of Iran." Late today, the human rights activist news agency said at least 3,000 people have been killed in protests. This number is greater than any other round of protests in Iran in decades. The suspect accused of shooting and killing conservative activist Charlie Kirk was back in court today in Utah. Attorneys for Tyler Robinson argued that the prosecutors should be disqualified from the case because one of their daughters was at the event where Kirk was killed. ABC's Trevor Ault has the latest.
Tonight, Charlie Kirk's accused killer, Tyler Robinson, appearing in a Utah court, watching silently as his defense attorneys argue the entire team of prosecutors should be disqualified from the case.
There was a family member of a prosecutor who was present at Utah Valley University at the Charlie Kirk rally.
Robinson's attorneys say the 18-year-old child of one of the prosecutors was standing less than 100 feet away from Charlie Kirk when he was shot and killed last September. The defense suggesting to the judge the prosecution's pursuit of the death penalty may have been motivated by personal emotion.
If I had found out that my child was at an incident where somebody was shot and killed, I would have an incredibly strong emotional reaction.
Prosecutors reject that argument, saying Robinson's attorneys are trying to get someone more lenient assigned to the case.
As opposing counsel, you don't like the offer you're getting, the way the prosecution is being handled. You allege a conflict of interest.
Steph, the judge has not yet ruled on whether or not the prosecution will be disqualified. They will first listen to relevant witness testimony that could potentially include that 18-year-old. Stephanie?
Trevor, thank you so much. Millions of Americans are under winter weather alerts. Back-to-back storms will bring snow to the Midwest and the Great Lakes and then sweep into the Northeast, followed by a major cold blast next week. Let's get right to our partner station WABC's chief meteorologist, Lee Goldberg. Lee.
Hey, Stephanie. Yes, it's a dual snow threat in the Northeast this weekend. It's a clipper Saturday. We're on the fringe of a coastal system on Sunday. They're not blockbuster storms, but we'll get some light snows. We'll accumulate and probably have slippery travel as well. The first clippers coming from the Midwest and Great Lakes into the Northeast. We start to see rounds of snow into the Northeast. We already have winter weather alerts. Steadiest snow in New York City is probably around the midday hours along the I-95 corridor. So some of that snow is not going to stick. We'll have some slippery conditions north of I-95 and west. That's really we're going to have the steadiest amounts. The second storm coming out of the southeast could bring snow to Florida and Georgia, then rain to the East Coast, and then the next round of snow, this one's on the eastern side of I-95, Jersey Shore, Long Island, up to Cape Cod. Maybe some snow close to Gillette Stadium for Patriots and Texans as we go into Sunday. By the end of the weekend, coating to a couple inches along the coast, up to a half foot to the north. No matter what, it's extreme winter chill coming back again at the end of the holiday weekend. Stephanie?
Oh, so cold out there. All right, Lee, thank you. We'll bundle up. The safety of Tylenol for pregnant women has been questioned since President Trump and Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. claimed autism was linked to using the medication during pregnancy. But a major new study out now draws a different conclusion. ABC's senior national correspondent Steve Osunsami has this report.
A team of scientists late tonight say it's the strongest evidence ever showing that when pregnant women use Tylenol, it doesn't cause their children to become autistic. Researchers in The Lancet, a leading health journal, say that they combed through the data of 60 different studies that looked at more than 1 million children and say that despite some strongly held beliefs in today's U.S. government, they did not find that taking Tylenol during pregnancy causes autism, attention deficit, or hyperactivity in children.
The main takeaway from this study is taking all of that together really should give some long-term reassurance for anyone who had any confusion or concern.
People were confused last fall when the president and the U.S. Health Secretary went on live television saying the exact opposite, a position they maintain this evening.
So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary.
Our thanks to Steve Osunsami. Coming up here on ABC News Live Prime, a new radioactive warning. The exports that could test positive for radioactive contamination months after frozen raw shrimp showed possible exposure to radiation. Plus, a truly amazing story out of the Amazon. An uncontacted tribe captured on video for the very first time. And the first social media trend of 2026. Where were you in 2016? That's all coming up. Welcome back. 2026 may be just about 2 weeks old, but the internet is already looking back. A recent social media trend has users sharing photos or videos of themselves from 2016, which, believe it or not, was 10 years ago. We'll have more in just a moment about what's behind this wave of nostalgia. But first, let's remember 2016 by the numbers. Beyonce's 6th studio album, Lemonade, was the best-selling album globally, according to the International Federation of the Phonographic Industry, which said the year's best-selling song was One Dance by Drake featuring Wizkid and Kyla. That song today has nearly 4 billion streams on Spotify. Captain America Civil War was the biggest box office draw, grossing $1.15 billion worldwide. And the world became obsessed with Pokemon Go. Do you remember that? The mobile game surpassed 500 million downloads before the end of the year. My brother was all about that. In sports, the Summer Olympics were held in Rio de Janeiro, marking the first Olympic Games in South America. And in a dramatic World Series, the Chicago Cubs won their first championship in 108 years. It was also a historic year politically. Donald Trump was elected as the 45th president of the United States, and the United Kingdom voted to leave the European Union with nearly 52% voting in favor. And let's come back to the present, back to 2026. Music listeners have been particularly nostalgic. Spotify reported a nearly 800% surge in 2016 playlists in the first few weeks of the year. And I had to hop on the trend myself. I wasn't the first, but I am not the last. Here I am in 2016 at the White House with my little family, and there with the Obamas. I had just moved to Washington, D.C., had just started a year earlier with ABC News, and there we were just kind of settling in. And that was taken in Hawaii at Pearl Harbor. I was covering the President Obama, on his trip, and that was the presidential debate in 2016. So many memories. Wow, come a long way. And now to break down this nostalgic viral trend is journalist and former Vogue editor covering the intersection of culture and fashion, Leah Faye Cooper. Leah, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So it has been a decade since 2016. It doesn't seem that long, like so long ago, but it is apparently. What is it behind this internet rewind that we're all seeing?
Well, I think nostalgia is something that has been trending for a while now. Like you see it in fashion, you see it with these reboots of TV shows and people remaking movies. So a 10th anniversary of anything really brings that up. And I think with 2016 in particular, people are really longing for a time that felt simpler, a time that felt like really optimistic. And I think for a lot of people, 2016 was the last time that things really did feel happier, a bit lighter, like in recent memory. And so
and it is fun to go down memory lane and see what you were doing 10 years ago. When you look at this trend and you see the fashion, the social media, that online presence, what stands out to you the most?
Well, definitely the fashion. Yeah. I mean, the denim was very distressed. Like, basically, you could see the whole front of your leg in a pair of jeans. I remember, like, walking outside in Washington Square Park and seeing people play Pokemon Go, just like groups of young people running around. I remember hoverboards, like, exploding, which wasn't
oh my goodness,
so great.
I remember that.
I remember that. There was a lot going on in 2016.
And how do you think this nostalgia shapes what comes next? Or does it? Or is it just a trip down memory lane and reminiscing about what was 10 years ago?
I mean, I think people will continue to do that. You know, like I said, if you go on like Poshmark or, you know, Depop, people are, you know, selling or looking for American Apparel and, you know, Abercrombie and Juicy Couture. So I think nostalgia will always be trending, you know, to some extent.
What's one of the things that you've kind of revisited from 2016 as you're looking through your old photos? You're like, you know what? I remember that jacket. I'm bringing it back.
I definitely had some dresses that were a bit form-fitting that I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe I could bust that out again. You know, I'd probably wear it with a loose jacket of some sort, you know.
So maybe some style, some fashion.
Yeah. Maybe like a different styling of that. There was a lot. I feel like athleisure really started to be a big deal like around that time too. Lots of joggers, which I think would be fun with a crop top nowadays.
Stylish joggers, but comfortable.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time and for taking this trip down memory lane with us.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. And coming up here on ABC News Live Prime, full eyebrows are now the rage. We look at the growing beauty trend and a surgery designed to make it happen. Results are in for the world's worst tourist attraction. Number one is right here in the U.S. We'll tell you where when we come back. Welcome back to Prime. Here's a look at the stories making headlines right now. Amid rising tensions in Minneapolis, a federal investigation has been opened into Mayor Jacob Frey and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, according to U.S. officials. The two are being accused of obstructing federal law enforcement activities in the state as clashes between protesters and federal agents intensify in the Twin Cities. President Trump today said there's no reason right now to use the Insurrection Act, but added, quote, "If I need it, I'd use it." As the administration continues its efforts to take over Greenland, President Trump threatened that he might impose tariffs on countries that don't support his efforts to acquire the territory. This comes as 6 other NATO countries, including Germany, France, and the UK, sent forces to Greenland in a show of support for Denmark. And it has been a deadly and devastating flu season. The CDC reports that there have been at least 18 million illnesses and more than 9,000 deaths from the flu this season so far. The number of pediatric deaths reported have nearly doubled to 32 so far this season. 33 states have now reported very high or high levels of flu activity. And this all comes after the CDC halted recommendations for the flu shot for children. And country music legend Dolly Parton will be celebrating her 80th birthday on Monday, and she is releasing new music for the occasion. It's a new rendition of her classic Light of a Clear Blue Morning, featuring Lainey Wilson, Miley Cyrus, Queen Latifah, and Reba McEntire. Proceeds of the song will go to pediatric cancer research at Monroe Carell Jr. Children's Hospital in Nashville, Tennessee. Happy birthday, Dolly. Coming up, overplucked, thinning eyebrows, the cosmetic procedure that could help fill in those gaps. And we have a sneak peek at Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime show. You do not want to miss it. The cosmetic surgery that's, well, raising eyebrows among the millions who pursued razor-thin lines back in the day. Surgeons promising thick eyebrows are now only a procedure away. But is it worth the price tag? Here's our report. It's one of the most popular beauty trends of the past decade. Full and flawless eyebrows, seen styled on famous faces.
People really desire fuller brows, something that really gives them a youthful facial appearance.
Kim Kardashian posting to YouTube with the so-called eyebrow queen, Anastasia.
She wears this like headband with a big light so she can see.
And model Hailey Bieber showing off her brow routine for Vogue.
A little bit of eyebrow gel.
Other celebs admitting to past brow mistakes. Model and author Chrissy Teigen talking to InStyle.
Don't take off your eyebrows, kids.
You may remember the thin brow mania of the early 90s. Late makeup artist Kevin Aucoin often credited with starting the trend, as seen in the documentary Larger Than Life, the Kevin Aucoin story.
And he'd lie me down and pin me and then pluck out all my eyebrows.
And then literally overnight, everybody started tweezing their eyebrows.
The majority of my patients are coming from that 90s, 2000s era. And now, after having tweezed for many years, a lot of those patients are seeing that their hair hasn't grown back in.
Now, a cosmetic surgery growing in popularity is helping to fill in those gaps. Eyebrow transplants. In 2021, Chrissy Teigen sharing her transplant results on Instagram, writing, "Welcome new brow hairs." And actress Megan Good praising her brow procedure on The Doctors.
For me, it's been a complete game changer. It's given me like 10 years back to my face.
Both Teigen and Good crediting Beverly Hills facial plastic surgeon Dr. Jason Champagne, who specializes in hair restoration.
To me, it's more than just surgery, it's also an art.
Similar to traditional hair transplants, for most people, hair is harvested from the back of the patient's scalp, then implanted permanently in their brow line.
This procedure has helped a lot of patients to achieve what they are really looking for, and that's their own natural hair in their eyebrows.
But it's not just for celebrities.
Cassie, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you doing?
Okay, very good. So we're going to get started.
In New York, plastic surgeon Dr. Michael Wolfeld is getting ready for surgery and making his final marks.
We're checking for symmetry of the brows.
His patient, 56-year-old Cassie Wilhilt.
And I'll show you with the mirror exactly what the plan will be, okay?
Traveling over 700 miles to his medical office.
I just feel like I'm in really good hands with him.
Cassie admits she over-tweezed her brows decades ago.
When I was younger, I had wonderful, big, bushy eyebrows until I started over-plucking them.
Okay, and they started to thin out over time.
They did.
Who are the folks that are coming in here to inquire about this procedure?
So we see a wide age range. Anywhere from someone in their 30s to someone in their 60s will come in. And we've seen over the past several years that it has really grown in popularity.
What were your thoughts when you heard that the procedure would be permanent?
I was thrilled that this would be a permanent solution. I couldn't be more happy to give this a shot.
So today
we are doing an eyebrow transplant procedure. You're gonna lean your head down slightly, just like that. Perfect. They are not put under. It's under local anesthesia, so it's minimally invasive. We're filling the eyebrows in with your natural hair. So we take some of the hair from the back of the head, we separate them into individual, what we call follicles, individual hairs. We make small little holes in your eyebrows to mimic the exact angle, direction, how hair naturally grows, and then we implant them one by one to angle everything.
This is a process, so why go through this?
It'll be so beneficial for my face and just looking like my old self versus more of an aging self.
But it can take months for the transplanted hair to grow in and to see the full results of the procedure. Is it harder to maintain the hair in your eyebrow area once you've had the transplant?
Yeah, it is. And you have to remember that it does come from your head, right? So the hair is going to grow a little faster and grow longer than your natural eyebrow hair would. So you do have to trim it more frequently.
What does a procedure like this typically cost someone?
It can range anywhere from usually $6,000 to $7,000 to $15,000 to $16,000.
In Beverly Hills, Dr. Champagne checks in with a patient 7 months after her brow surgery. In the early aughts, Janet Notes was a working model, sporting razor-thin brows.
I, like so many women, overplucked. Early 2000s, that ultra-thin brow. My hair never fully came back.
Over the years, Janet says she tried various brow tattooing treatments to fill them in.
I did microblading, I did microshadowing. It was every year, sometimes every 6 months, you're going in for a touch-up. So it was a lot of upkeep.
Inspired by Chrissy Teigen, Janet decided to travel from Florida to California last March for her own eyebrow transplant with Dr. Champagne, documenting her post-surgery transformation on Instagram after getting so-called champagne brows.
But 3 months, I was getting a lot of new brow growth. 5 months, I was genuinely happy with my brows. Today marks 7 months, and I'm thrilled. The recovery process was minimal, I would say. My maintenance is quite easy for me. I just add it to my skincare regimen. So a couple times a week, I'll just trim the brows a little.
I love being able to take patients and individualizing that procedure for them, because not everyone's face is the same. Bone structure is different. Where their nose sits on their face. Some patients have slightly elevated eyes, some are a little straighter. All of that plays a role in how I'm designing the brows. Couldn't be happier with how they came in.
As with any surgery, patients should check their doctor's medical credentials and consider any risks.
I would say the main risks are, number one, minimal bleeding. That just happens from little incisions that we're creating in the skin. There might be a little bit of sensitivity from the donor area or even in the brow area. Beyond that, infection is potentially a risk. And then the incision line visibility, place incisions in places where it would be very difficult to find or tell that anything was ever done.
And according to a recent study, up to 11% of hair transplant patients experienced permanent numbness. As for Cassie, her 6-hour procedure is finally finished.
So, I'm going to show you.
And she's getting a first look at her new brows.
We transplanted a total of about 600 individual follicles, so it was a full eyebrow restoration.
I just hope that this is a great solution where it'll make me look more natural and, make the aging process slow down a little bit.
Our thanks to the doctors and patients who sat down with us for that conversation. All right, coming up here on Prime, his motto is TikTok transparency. Our latest TikTok guest gets real about the world of influencing and has words of advice for anyone hoping to turn their content into a career. And the world is still dreaming of Selena, and the Grammy Museum is honoring the Tejano music legend with a brand new exhibit. We take you inside, coming up. Radioactive shrimp. Whole milk is back in schools, and the worst tourist attraction in the world. These stories and more in tonight's rundown. A new intelligence bulletin from the Department of Homeland Security is warning that exports from Indonesia will most likely test positive for radioactive contamination in the coming weeks and months. The alert follows a December recall of 84,000 bags of frozen raw shrimp imported from Indonesia that showed possible exposure to radiation. According to the bulletin, a copy of which was obtained by ABC News, the exposure had possibly spread to a container of clove spices and athletic footwear. Authorities note that the contamination appears unintentional and that Customs and Border Protection is well positioned to detect and stop impacted shipments. So far, the FDA says no contaminated products have entered the U.S. marketplace. Newly released video shows never-before-seen footage of an uncontacted indigenous tribe in the Peruvian Amazon. The footage, shared by conservation group Jungle Keepers, shows the tribe going about their daily activities. Jungle Keepers says the encounter took place over a year ago with a Peruvian anthropologist present and in partnership with local indigenous communities. The group says it's releasing the video now to highlight threats from deforestation and to push for land protection. President Trump has signed a bipartisan bill to put whole milk back in school cafeterias. The new legislation overturns a 2012 Obama administration policy that limited school milk options to skim and low fat as part of efforts to curb childhood obesity. The change follows new federal dietary guidelines recommending full-fat dairy. The USDA says it will begin updating school nutrition policies immediately. The Grammy Museum in Los Angeles is honoring Tejano music legend Selena with a new exhibit now open to the public. Selena, From Texas to the World, runs through March 16th and features personal artifacts. On display, the Bidi Bidi Bom Bom singer's Grammy and Lifetime Achievement Award, as well as hand-drawn fashion designs from her teen years. Global superstar Bad Bunny and Apple Music have released the official trailer for the Super Bowl 60 halftime show. The trailer, shot entirely in Puerto Rico, features the three-time Grammy winner dancing beneath the iconic Puerto Rican flamboyant tree. The trailer invites the world to celebrate rhythm, unity, and culture when Bad Bunny takes the stage February 8th. Data is in for the world's worst major tourist attractions, and topping the list is one of Los Angeles' most famous spots, the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The analysis by travel company Stasher ranked 101 attractions using Google reviews, social media engagement, airport access, local accommodations, and overall safety. Researchers say the low score for the Walk of Fame is due to multiple factors, including having the lowest Google reviews of the 101 locations in the study and its distance from the airport. As far as the world's best major tourist attraction, that goes to Barcelona's Sagrada Familia. We now turn to our weekly segment, TikTok, where we take a closer look at the story behind the sensation. He goes by Bran Flakes on TikTok, where more than 1 million people follow for his humor and lifestyle content. But Brandon Edelman is also known for something rarer online: honesty about what it takes to build a career as a creator. Take a look.
Never sign a contract if the words in perpetuity are anywhere. Brands will low-key be manipulative. They'll be like, we would love to use your content forever. We know you're growing your platform. This will really help you gain exposure. No, they know that you might be on the verge of a blow-up, so they want access to all of your growth without having to pay for it.
Brandon joins us now in studio. Welcome to the show, Brandon. It's great to meet you.
Great to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and congratulations on all of your success. You are dropping nuggets of advice on TikTok. You've said that the hardest thing about being a content creator isn't necessarily being a content creator, but it's becoming one.
Yes.
So talk to us about that. How did you get started?
Yeah, I started posting 2 videos a day 5 years ago, January of 2021. And that truly was the hardest part because I was working a 9-to-5 job. So I would go to work, I would do my morning commute, I would do my afternoon commute, and then I would get home. And the last thing I felt like doing was filming 2 videos. But I did it because I really wanted to be a creator full time and I believed in it. So it's a grind and you have to deal with kind of just like, you know, in the beginning videos aren't performing as well. And then there's that self-doubt. But I really believed that I had something and I kept pushing, and it's so exciting to be where I'm at today.
And what kept you going? Was it just that belief that you could make it, that you could do well on TikTok?
Yeah, it really was that belief. And then I would say every milestone I made, like when I hit 10,000 followers, and then when I hit 100,000 followers, it was more motivation to keep going because I was like, this is working. So I just really didn't give up, honestly.
Yeah, and you've been very open about the less glamorous side of influencing, from how taxes actually work to income, and even what you kind of miss about the corporate world. So what has that been like, just kind of putting the truth out there?
Yeah, I saw this like sort of white space in the creator industry where, it's very glamorized, and obviously there's so many people, even kids now that are going to high school and college that want to do this. And I saw an opportunity to really talk about like, what are some of the downsides, And I absolutely love my job and it's everything to me. But, like every job, there are some pros and cons. And I wanted to really highlight, hey, like, this is what you're getting into, like, if you want to do this, because there are so many things that took me by surprise. And there's not really like a playbook on what to expect. Everyone's journey is different, but there are certain things that you're going to face when you go down this path, and I like to kind of be transparent about it.
Okay, so you were recently named to Forbes 30 Under 30 in the social media category.
Yes.
Congratulations, that's
Thank you.
huge. How does that feel? How does it feel to be recognized in this world of TikTok?
It feels incredible and like such a dream come true. I turned 29 in August, so this was my last year to be Forbes 30 Under 30, and that was like on my vision board, on my dream board, and it was one of those goals that I was like, am I going to be able to hit this one? Like, I just turned 29, I've got one more year. So when it was dropped, I was like, oh my God, I did it. But it's been such a crazy journey. I never would have thought that this would come, because 5 years ago I was working a 9 to 5, I was making $20 an hour. So to then be recognized for Forbes 30 Under 30, like, it just shows like so much can happen.
So nice to meet you. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you for having me.
Check Brandon out on TikTok at Bran_Flakes for humor-driven TikTok transparency. And that is our show for tonight. I'm Stephanie Ramos. Stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Good evening, everyone. I'm Stephanie Ramos in for Linsey Davis. Thank you for streaming with us. We begin with breaking news tonight. A federal investigation has been opened into Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, according to multiple U.S. officials. The two are being accused of obstructing federal law enforcement activities in the state. Just last night, Frey had urged for calm, saying, for those that are taking the bait, you are not helping. This as protests in Minneapolis have intensified over this past week, and we're learning about two children who were hospitalized after federal agents deployed tear gas on a family. President Trump weighing in on the Insurrection Act, saying, quote, if I need it, I'd use it. ABC's Matt Rivers is in Minneapolis tonight. He has the latest.
Tonight, new police, fire, and 911 dispatch logs detail the chaotic moments after ICE agent Jonathan Ross shot Renee Good. The first calls coming in at 9:38 a.m., one telling dispatchers there's 15 ICE agents and they shot her, because she wouldn't open her car door.
Can I go check a pulse?
No! Back up! Now!
I'm a physician!
I don't care! We understand. We got EMS coming.
Paramedics arrived at 9:42 a.m., reporting Good had 2 gunshots to the right chest, 1 gunshot to the left forearm, and an additional wound on the left side of her head, which the report called a, quote, possible gunshot wound. The dispatch logs indicate local law enforcement had to evacuate ICE agents from the scene because of the crowds.
So what we're seeing here is a couple dozen officers that have come out of the federal building there in riot gear, pushing the protesters that have been out front of the building all day long back onto the sidewalk. They have threatened people with arrest if they don't comply.
I can't breathe. Hi. Back up!
Overnight, officers taking at least 4 people into custody.
We were on our way home from our oldest son's basketball game in South Minneapolis.
On Wednesday, Destiny Jackson had her husband and 6 kids in the car, including a 6-month-old, when she got caught in chaotic protests after ICE shot a Venezuelan man during a traffic stop.
And then one of them or 2 of them stopped at my car and was just like, get the F out of here. And I'm like, we're trying, but in that instance, I'm like, don't you put your foot on that gas, because I'd be damned if they They try to shoot us like Renee by saying that we hit them with our car. Immediately, once they got behind our car, they rolled tear gas under it.
They say grenades detonated their airbags, trapping them inside as gas filled their van. Then their 6-month-old baby stopped breathing.
Having to get my baby like mouth to mouth and people like pouring milk all over my other kids. I thought I was dying, honestly.
Thankfully, everyone now okay.
Where are we supposed to go?
Homeland Security says they've made more than 2,500 arrests since Operation Metro Surge began in December. Many of the violent takedowns caught on camera.
Stop kneeing him in the face!
Multiple witnesses telling ABC News federal agents ate lunch in a Mexican restaurant outside Minneapolis Thursday, then followed staff after closing time. This video showing officers then arresting 3 of them. President Trump, who has threatened to send in active U.S. troops using the Insurrection Act, seeming to dial it back today.
If I needed it, I'd use it. I don't think there's any reason right now to use it. But if I needed it, I'd use it. It's very powerful.
And Matt Rivers joins us now. Matt, what more are you learning from the governor's response?
Yeah, so what he's saying is that the justice system here is being weaponized and that it is a dangerous authoritarian tactic. He's clearly willing to fight back about this, at least in the public arena. But where it goes from here, how far this investigation progresses, and how quickly, Stephanie, is an open question.
And we can see those protesters there behind you there in Minneapolis. Matt Rivers for us tonight. Thank you, Matt. Tonight, the president is doubling down on his effort to take over Greenland as U.S. allies, including Germany, the U.K. and France, send troops there to protect the island. Plus, 24 hours after their meeting, President Trump has kept Maria Corina Machado's Nobel Peace Prize, as he called the Venezuelan opposition leader a fine woman. But he is still not backing her as Venezuela's new leader. Our Mary Bruce reports from the White House.
Tonight, President Trump heaping praise on Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado, one day after she gave him the Nobel Peace Prize she won and he wanted.
I never met her before, and I was very, very impressed. She's this is a fine woman.
But Trump still won't back Machado to lead Venezuela. Today, his CIA director John Ratcliffe in Caracas meeting with Nicolas Maduro's former vice president Delcy Rodriguez. After Maduro was captured by the U.S., Rodriguez becoming acting president. Today, Machado not mincing words.
She's a communist. She's the main ally and representation of the Russian regime, the Chinese and the Iranians.
But Trump wants to work with Maduro's former vice president anyway. Today, telling me another government shakeup in Venezuela would create chaos. Why align with Delcy Rodriguez and the remnants of the Maduro regime and not with Machado, who has the support of the Venezuelan people?
Well, if you ever remember a place called Iraq where everybody was fired, every single person, the police, the generals, everybody was fired, and they ended up being ISIS. Instead of just getting down to business, they ended up being ISIS. So I remember that.
The opposition leader who gave Trump her Nobel Prize still convinced she will be elected president of Venezuela.
I believe I will be elected when the right time comes as president of Venezuela.
It comes as Trump redoubles efforts to take over another country, Greenland, a territory long controlled by our NATO ally, Denmark. Now, 6 other NATO countries, including Germany, France, and the UK, moving forces to Greenland in a show of support for Denmark. Trump today threatening to punish NATO allies that get in his way.
I may put a tariff on countries if they don't go along with Greenland.
Our thanks to Mary Bruce for that report. The CDC today released alarming new numbers about flu cases in the U.S. The agency estimated there have been at least 18 million illnesses and 9,300 deaths so far this flu season, and said 15 pediatric flu deaths were reported just this week. ABC's Rhiannon Alley has the latest.
Tonight, new numbers from the CDC show an alarming surge of Americans dying from the flu, up 25% since last week. The number of pediatric deaths reported nearly doubling to 32 so far this season. Hackensack University Medical Center in New Jersey has been on the front lines in the fight against the flu.
People are getting sicker. Some have come to the ER, but what we are seeing is what we call is secondary complications of the flu.
New Jersey reporting its first death of a child. 2-year-old Isaiah Castillo went to the ER with a 101 fever. His mother says he was sent home with instructions to take pain and fever-reducing medication. His fever dropping slightly, but she says it spiked that night to 105 and he started having seizures.
I was scared. I screamed for my husband to call 911.
Isaiah died the next day at the hospital.
I will never be the same. My family will never be the same.
Isaiah's mother says he had not yet gotten the flu vaccine. The surge in flu deaths comes after the CDC dropped its universal recommendation that children get the vaccine. But leading medical groups are still urging every American 6 months and older to get one.
Take the vaccine, please. It will help with the symptoms, the duration, and the severity of it. And I think that's a very important message.
Our thanks to Rhiannon Alley for that report. Millions of Americans are under winter weather alerts. Back-to-back storms will bring snow to the Midwest and the Great Lakes and then sweep into the Northeast, followed by a major cold blast next week. Let's get right to our partner station WABC's chief meteorologist, Lee Goldberg. Lee.
Hey, Stephanie. Yes, it's a dual snow threat in the Northeast this weekend. It's a clipper Saturday. We're on the fringe of a coastal system on Sunday. They're not blockbuster storms, but we'll get some light snows. We'll accumulate and probably have slippery travel as well. The first clippers coming from the Midwest and Great Lakes into the Northeast. We start to see rounds of snow into the Northeast. We already have winter weather alerts. Steadiest snow in New York City is probably around the midday hours along the I-95 corridor. So some of that snow is not going to stick. We'll have some slippery conditions north of I-95 and west. That's really we're going to have the steadiest amounts. The second storm coming out of the southeast could bring snow to Florida and Georgia, then rain to the East Coast, and then the next round of snow, this one's on the eastern side of I-95, Jersey Shore, Long Island, up to Cape Cod. Maybe some snow close to Gillette Stadium for Patriots and Texans as we go into Sunday. By the end of the weekend, coating to a couple inches along the coast, up to a half foot to the north. No matter what, it's extreme winter chill coming back again at the end of the holiday weekend. Stephanie?
Oh, so cold out there. All right, Lee, thank you. We'll bundle up. We're tracking several headlines around the world. A South Korean court sentenced former President Yoon Suk-yeol to 5 years in prison. This is the first verdict of 8 criminal trials Yeol faces over his 2024 martial law debacle that forced him out of the office. The most significant criminal charge against Yeol alleges his martial law enforcement amounted to a rebellion. The prosecution requested the death sentence over that charge. The Seoul court will decide on that ruling next month. Canada announced a major new trade agreement with China today. It came during a visit by Prime Minister Mark Carney, the first visit by a Canadian Prime Minister to China in about a decade. The deal involves investments in auto manufacturing and collaboration on energy technology. President Trump responded to the deal saying, quote, "If you can get a deal with China, you should do that." And a special performance at a prison in Milan featured instruments made from the wood of sunken boats that brought migrants to Italy. World-renowned Italian conductor Riccardo Muti led the orchestra, whose members played on violins, violas, and cellos, distinguishable by the faded blue, green, and yellow paint of salvaged wood. The instruments were made by the prison's inmates, who also were part of the audience. Well, the safety of Tylenol for pregnant women has been questioned since President Trump and Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. claimed autism was linked to using the medication during pregnancy. But a major new study out now draws a different conclusion. ABC's senior national correspondent Steve Osinsami has this report.
A team of scientists late tonight say it's the strongest evidence ever showing that when pregnant women use Tylenol, it doesn't cause their children to become autistic. Researchers in The Lancet, a leading health journal, say that they combed through the data of 60 different studies that looked at more than 1 million children and say that despite some strongly held beliefs in today's U.S. government, they did not find that taking Tylenol during pregnancy causes autism, attention deficit, or hyperactivity in children.
The main takeaway from this study is taking all of that together really should give some long-term reassurance for anyone who had any confusion or concern.
People were confused last fall when the president and the U.S. Health Secretary went on live television saying the exact opposite, a position they maintain this evening.
So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary.
Our thanks to Steve Osunsami for that report. The Education Department has halted student loan wage garnishments and collections for now. This temporary move gives breathing room to millions of Americans who have struggled to pay back their loans. Around 5 million people have defaulted on student loan payments. The department said today that it will delay garnishments and that involuntary collection efforts will function more efficiently after the Trump administration implements significant improvements to, quote, our broken student loan system. A new financial research analysis says the prevalence of people losing weight through GLP-1 weight loss drugs could lead to lower fuel costs for airlines. Listen to us. Here's a breakdown. The analysis from Jefferies said that if society becomes 10% slimmer, that would mean there would be 2% of weight savings on planes, therefore 1.5% in fuel savings. Weight is a crucial element for fuel efficiency. Coming up here on Prime, we sit down with one of the stars of the wildly popular new show, Heated Rivalry, to talk about the overnight phenomenon. And if your New Year's resolution is to find a new love, we have matchmaker Maria here to give you all the tips. You don't want to miss it. What do hockey sticks, tuna melts, and ginger ale have in common? It's the steamy new hockey series, Heated Rivalry. ABC spoke to the author of the book and one of the actors of the new hit series. Here's ABC's Chris Connolly.
I'm coming to the cottage.
It's the pop culture phenomenon that your friends in social media can't stop talking about.
What was that? Not everything is about you, Hollander.
HBO Max's hit Heated Rivalry, with its sizzling storylines and candid depictions of closeted male hockey players in lust and in love, has thrilled millions.
Я хочу только тебя. Не всегда только тебя.
Turning its leads Connor Story and Hudson Williams into overnight stars.
Do you think everyone in the audience has seen Heated Rivalry? That's a maybe. But their trainers have, and their moms have, and their daughters have.
Ilya, the Russian, Shane, the Canadian, fiercely competitive on the ice, but off the ice, they're just figuring it out.
Hey, we're good here.
They're not the only heated rivalry couple heating things up.
I mean, the best one's the blueberry one.
Kip is a smoothie barista, navigating his relationship with team captain Scott Hunter. Actor Robbie G.K. recognizing what the show's representation has come to mean for so many.
It's almost like a bit of a haven that it creates within the storyline for people to find comfort in. And I think if I had known the impact and the gravity of that storyline, I definitely would have overthought things.
Amid all that on-screen passion, Heated Rivalry also capturing the tension and anguish of love that's forced to remain in the shadows.
You know, I think that there's a lot of ways in which a story like this can be told. In some of those ways, it could be kind of cringy or miss the mark, and I truly think that the team behind it is what made it special.
I have heard from quite a few heterosexual men who also have been letting me know that it's improved their marriage.
Author of the books that the show is derived from, Rachel Reed, driven to create these stories.
I've just been a hockey fan my whole life, but I've had a lot of problems with hockey culture, and this was a way for me to get a lot of those feelings out on paper.
Since its release, fans flocking to social media, praising the show for including characters who feel just like them, as those characters grapple with trying to live authentic lives.
I hope that people know that there's at least an option, and there's a world that if they want to seek that out, there's somebody out there with open arms.
Like real-life hockey player Jesse Cordham, who publicly came out online this week. He says he did it for the teenager who carried a weight that did not seem to fit into that world.
Heated Rivalry helped me realize that visibility matters. It finally allowed me to be that voice for so many that came before me to fight for hockey and inclusion in hockey.
Our thanks to Chris Connolly for that report. Coming up here on Prime, it's a new year. Do you need a new love? The dating trends to expect before dipping your toe in the dating pool. We all know that dating has its challenges, from navigating through fake dating profiles to, let's face it, the sheer time and expense it takes to find a match. If you're determined to find a new love in 2026, you're in luck. We have a matchmaker extraordinaire with the dating trends and all you need to know before you jump into that dating scene. Maria Avgatides, thank you so much for joining us. Maria, you are the CEO of Agape Match and author of the best-selling book, Ask a Matchmaker. You've been in this business for nearly 20 years. You've got a podcast, you've got the book. You know your stuff.
Yes, I know dating.
You know dating.
I know dating.
My husband and I often joke that we are so thankful to not be out on the dating scene because it seems a little messy right now.
You know, it's not just dating, it's also friendships. Everything has shifted in how we intentionally and organically try to meet each other because we're all stuck in these algorithms. So I can understand when you're already in a relationship, you're like, oh, I'm so happy I'm not. But you also have to be helping your single community.
Yes.
You know, you got to set them up, but we'll talk about it.
Yes, set them up, offer advice.
Yes.
You say if someone is looking for love, they should ask themselves a certain amount of questions before they start jumping into the dating scene. Is that right?
Yes. There's a lot of questions you should be asking yourself, but it all comes down to compatibility. Long-term compatibility is not just, oh, this is my zip code, this is the person, the height. It has to do with, you know, your financial compatibility, your emotional compatibility, your spiritual compatibility. So for instance, can you and your partner laugh together? Can you plan together? And can you have strong conflict resolution skills to play on that foundation of a healthy relationship?
And it seems so simple, but
it's not.
It's not. It can be pretty complex when you're meeting someone and getting to know them and then figuring these things out. Let's talk about some trends that you're seeing.
There's three trends.
Three trends. What are they?
So one of the biggest trends is authenticity. The second is intentionality. And the third is vetting. So the biggest one is authenticity. People can smell an AI photo from a mile away. So I'm going to tell you to get rid of the polished photos.
And it's not just filters anymore.
No,
now it's AI.
It's way more. Like, you know, oh, change my scarf from being pink to blue. You know, like it's so different now. So I would tell you that it's better to have that really fun photo that you took with your friends in front of the pier and just crop yourself. And that's the photo you use if you are online dating or even if you are on social media. So authenticity, especially among Gen Z, is the thing that people seek out the most.
Okay.
Which then takes us to intentionality. That's the second biggest trend we're seeing. And it does tie into authenticity, right? You have to be authentically yourself when you go out, but you actually have to go out and there has to be some intention. So what I always tell people is if you're going to talk to me in the next 20 minutes, I need you to actually open up the event apps like Eventbrite or Meetup and actually reserve 2 things you can go to in the next week or in the next month. And the third is vetting. I also see people going to their friends, and what I tell them is stop telling your friends to set you up and instead tell your friends, hey, next time you're out with your friends, please invite me. This way you're meeting that social circle. You get to learn about their shared values and lifestyles.
Where would you say people are meeting their significant other? What's the most popular spot? Is it work? Is it out at the grocery store?
It's actually social clubs, and I'm so happy you asked that.
Social clubs?
Yes. Okay. So right now, the biggest things that are popping are trivia nights. You know, your local dive bar or, you know, watering hole has a social club that's called trivia night every week. People are doing that. And also, did you know the biggest growing social club in New York City is Backgammon NYC? So hundreds of people are coming together to play a really ancient game with strangers, but they see them every week. They create that familiarity, and that is how people are meeting. People have actually gotten married by going to these fun, activity-based social clubs.
That makes complete sense. You're going to hang out, have a good time. Clearly, you have something in common with the folks that are there. Maria, thank you so much. Great tips, great advice. Great to have you.
Thank you.
That's our show for this hour. I'm Stephanie Ramos. Stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thank you for streaming with us.